Now for the report of the CSU Alumni Association, President Dia Poole. Dia?
Thank you, Chair Monville, and thank you to the board. There are two key updates I would like to provide since our last meeting. In April, the Alumni Council held its spring meeting at Cal State San Bernardino with two major objectives: to celebrate the service of Alumni Trustee Lou Monville and to elect his successor. I'm happy to report that I believe we achieved both tasks with flying colors. Many of you in this room joined us on April 8th for our celebration of Chair Monville's 10 years of service on the Board of Trustees. It was truly our honor to celebrate such a consequential alumnus who has risen to the highest ranks of leadership in this university. And it was our opportunity to say thank you to his family and friends who we've borrowed him from, especially these last several years as chair. I would like to also express my heartfelt appreciation to my campus president, Dr. Morales, for opening his campus for this celebration and to allow us to also make it a homecoming for Lou. Dr. Morales, your staff went above and beyond in their hospitality, and they really made us proud. Please share our thanks with them. I'd also like to thank our Executive Director, Aaron Moore, for all his efforts on our behalf to make that celebration and that annual meeting a wonderful one. So thank you, Aaron. The Alumni Council's April meeting also allowed us the opportunity to complete the process of electing the next alumni trustee. I am pleased to report that after a lengthy nomination and interview process, the Alumni Council has elected John Nylon as the next alumni trustee. John's right here. A CSU Bakersfield alumnus, John will take office on July 1st. In a moment, I'll ask John to share some of his personal experience as a CSU student and alumnus. But first, I'd like to briefly share more information about the role of the alumni trustee, as some of you have expressed an interest in knowing more about this unique trustee position. The alumni trustee is elected by the volunteer members of the Alumni Council and is appointed directly to the board by the CSU Alumni Council. It is not a gubernatorial appointee. It is serving a 2-year term that can be renewed for a total of up to 8 years. A provision in our bylaws notes that if the alumni trustee is elected by you as vice chair or chair of the Board of Trustees, then their term is automatically extended, even if it is beyond the 8-year limit. We expect the alumni trustee to pursue leadership positions on the board, and we're very pleased that the last 2 chairs of the Board of Trustees were the alumni trustee. We encourage our trustee to use all their knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the work of the CSU. The trustee represents the interests and perspectives of the CSU alumni on the board to create opportunities for our current students and to preserve and enhance the values of the CSU degree. He or she has a responsibility to bring system-wide issues to the attention of the Alumni Council for consideration and assistance. There is a formal evaluation by the Alumni Council's Trustee Selection and Evaluation Committee during each 2-year term. And for that evaluation, we solicit feedback from key partners such as the Board of Trustees members themselves, CSSA, and the Academic Senate. This past term, we really raked Lou over the coals. So John, be afraid, be very afraid. All right. If you'd like more information on the roles and responsibilities of the alumni trustee, please visit our webpage, calstate.edu/alumni. With that, I would like to introduce the alumni trustee-elect John Nylon and ask him to share some of his personal CSU story. John.
Thank you, President Poole and Chairman Monville, trustees, Chancellor and staff, presidents and students. I'm very honored and humbled to be the alumni representative to this Board of Trustees, and I am very pleased to share a little bit of my CSU story, and it's in keeping with the theme that we've heard for a while about generational CSU graduates. I've graduated twice from California State University, Bakersfield. Go Runners. As did my wife. My daughter graduated twice from San Francisco State and my son twice from Channel Islands. And I have a 14-year-old who is eyeing Monterey Bay. So we truly are a CSU family. We used to bleed blue and gold, then green and purple, and red and white. So we bleed maroon or something now. But we just love the system, and we're very, very pleased to be a part of that. And, of course, very honored to be here today. And now my story began in the summer of 1977. I was transferring from a small college in Denver, and I wanted to go to the University of California at Santa Barbara and go to school with my best friend from high school. And I was all excited about that. But by the time I made that decision, it was a little late for the enrollment period. So that had lapsed, but the Cal State system still had an open enrollment. So I looked on a map and I drew some circles, and I thought, you know what? I've seen the information on the Bakersfield campus. I think that would be a nice campus to spend 10 weeks of my life. And so I enrolled, and they put me in the dorms, and I had a very nice 10 weeks, made some friends, enjoyed the campus, liked the professors. But on Saturday, the day after the last class and final, I was packing my bags because I got accepted to the University of California, Santa Barbara. I had student housing, and I was ready to go. I was up early because I wanted to leave and change the new chapter in my life. And then I got what I call the knock. I'm sitting in my dorm room, and all of a sudden I hear this knock on the door. And I open the door, and there is Professor Charles Kegley, a very, very large man just blocking the entire doorway. And he says to me, "John, we have a problem." And I thought, oh my, what did I do wrong? He said, "We've lost your take-home final." I thought, oh my. I said, "But I turned it in." He goes, "I know. At that time, you used to turn in your take-home final, and the secretary and you would sign a little document that said that they'd received it." He said, "It was signed, but we can't find it." He said, "Do you have a copy of it?" Well, this was 1977. There were no thumb drives, there were no hard drives, there were no diskettes. Beer money was very important, so we didn't take those quarters to go to a copy machine in a library and photocopy something you'd probably never look at again. So I said, "No, we don't." He said, "That's fine. Why don't you come for a walk with me?" So he took me for a walk on campus for about an hour. And he talked to me about the final, and he asked me questions about the course. He asked me a number of things. And as we were coming right back to my room, he said, "John, I think you're going to get an A in my class." I said, "Thank you." And I went inside my dorm room, and I went right to the bed, and I sat down, and I thought, what in the world just happened to me? I could not believe that this professor would care enough about a student, would even care enough to find out whether or not the final was in. And then to take that affirmative action to say, where does he live? He didn't know I lived in the dorms. I don't know how he found out where I lived, and I didn't imagine that he would take the time out of his Saturday to come find me. And then when I didn't have a copy of it, that he would have an alternative. And it was amazing. So I sat down, and then I thought about it and called my friend in Santa Barbara. I said, "What would happen at the UC?" And he laughed. He said, "You probably wouldn't have been taught by a professor. They probably wouldn't have known that your grade wasn't in. You probably would have got an F on that test. Maybe if you had enough grades the rest of the semester, you would have passed, but you would have had a low grade overall, or maybe you would have flunked the course." That's what would have happened. So I said, "You know what, Stan?" He's my friend. I said, let me think about that. So in about 10 minutes, I called him back, and I said, "I'm going to spend another 10 weeks at California State College, Bakersfield." And that's been nearly 40 years ago. And along the way, one of the professors said, "Hey, John, I have a former student who works at the county. He's got a temporary position. Would you be interested in it?" Sure. 32 years later, I'm going to be retiring from the county of Kern as the county administrative officer, the highest non-elected position in the county. And I have had the chance to serve as the director of the Workforce Investment Program, the Child Support Program. I was the director of public health. I was the interim CEO of our 222-bed trauma and teaching hospital. It has been a wonderful career, a wonderful opportunity. I met my wife as part of the campus, and so I have nothing to say but the highest regard for the CSU system, my experience. But it doesn't stop there, because my guess is if we asked every student or every graduate from CSU in this room, they would have a very similar story to mine. That is indeed the hallmark of the system. That is indeed what we strive for and what we should always be. Now, one person's opinion, as we evolve into a new system, I hope we never forget where we came from. I hope we never aspire to be something we are not, but instead we only aspire to be the best we can ever be. So thank you for this moment. And again, thank you for the honor of allowing me to serve on the trustee board. And I look forward to it. And Lou, thank you very much for your counsel over the last few months.
Thank you, John, and thank you for being willing to serve as the next alumni trustee. We know you will do an excellent job and follow in the proud footsteps of the previous alumni trustees. And finally, I'd just like to call the attention of the board and those present to the new Made in the CSU booklet. It highlights 7 of our very distinguished alums, and we invite you to read their stories and to please share this with stakeholders in the CSU and with your friends and families. And you can certainly contact Aaron if you'd like to have more copies of the booklet. Thank you, Chair Monville. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Dia, and welcome aboard, John.